This is the It's Syndicate.
Are you gonna bark all day, little doggy? Or are you gonna bite?
We are back. Keith Ippolito for another episode of the Ips Syndicate today. All-time great Falcon, number 78. Jersey retired in the rafters. Mike Kenn in the studio. Did this guy ever miss a game? Mike, thanks for coming on, man.
Good, great to see you.
Yeah, you too. So let's get into a little bit of this current Falcons team. What's some of your thoughts of some of the off-season moves? We saw Calvin Ridley getting drafted in wide receiver. Looks like that might be beneficial. With Julio, your position, they got to bring in a right guard, Brandon Fusco. What's your thoughts on the off-season moves?
Well, I like the first-round pick. A lot of people disagreed with it, but that's the kind of player that you can't pass up. And when you go ahead and take a look at the receiving core now with the Sanu and then Julio Jones in this edition, you can't double cover all three of them.
No.
I think it's going to help Julio out a lot, and it's going to help Matt Ryan out a lot. They started to draft defense later in the draft, which is where they really need the help, because the real problem with the Falcons has not been their ability to score; it's to stop people from scoring.
Oh yeah, that with the backs and all that. Yeah, that's been a recurring theme with this team.
Yeah, when you've got to score 25, 28 points every game to win a football game, that's hard to do 16 games out of the year.
Absolutely. And what about this Fusco kid, Brandon Fusco, right guard? What do you have any kind of thoughts on him? What do you think?
Well, obviously they probably do it, one, either to compete for the job, or two, just to give him some depth. He's a player. He's a 6th-round draft pick. He played, I think, 6 years in Minnesota, 1 year with the Vikings or with San Francisco, and now he's with the Falcons, so he's in his 8th year. Don't know much about it. People get hurt, and you need to have more than one at each position. They can play. He probably can play both left and right guard too, I would imagine.
Yeah, it seems like this guy can be interchangeable in any position. So yeah, I think it was a great signing. They definitely needed some depth at that position. And the Julio Jones situation, I'm kind of looking at it. If I was the Falcons, I don't, what do they need to pay this guy with 3 years left? Obviously, as a player, I'd always want to, or you as a player, you always want to see the players getting taken care of. But what do you think about this whole?
Well, I said that, one, they're going to make Matt Ryan the highest paid quarterback in the game. I predicted that, and people would ask me, and I told them that's what's going to happen. And then I also told them after Matt Ryan has made the highest paid quarterback in the game, Julio Jones is going to become knocking on the door. And even though he's got a contract with 3 years left on it, the market circumstances have changed. There's more money out there. The Falcons will probably cut a deal with him. As long as they have room to do it and make him, a Falcon for life then.
Yeah.
And you got to do, you don't know how many games you have, and you don't know how many years you're going to have. And you're only going to be in a leverage position
for so long.
And he's the top-rated receiver in the game. He should be paid, at the highest level.
Yeah, and if you look at some of the other wide receivers coming up in the league, Mike Evans last year getting his mega deal. And you have the whole situation with Odell Beckham. He's going to make a boatload of money after this season. And you're right, he is. You got Antonio Brown, Julio Jones, or Odell, but whatever order you want to put them, they're all phenomenal receivers. So he's definitely should be in that bracket. I agree with you on that. Now next, what about... I want to get into some of your Hall of Fame bid because I've been in Atlanta for a long time. To me, you're a no-brainer, and I think this is some media BS where they're just hating on Falcons players for no reason.
Well, there's a few things going on. One is that when you go ahead and take a look at all the people who do the election, all the sports writers. Half of them are around your age, Keith. So
yeah, no, I no offense to that. Kids my age forget that there's a whole other generation of players.
Right, and also my 17-year career, we only had 4 winning seasons out of 17, and 3 were in the first 5 years. But when you go ahead,
and you also missed half a year too because the '82 strike.
I missed 82 strike missed half of the year. Missed 5 games with a knee injury in '85. But other than those 5 games, I only missed 4 more by injury.
Yeah.
But I'll give you a statistic. There's only one offensive lineman in the history of the NFL who started more games than me. And that's
Was it Munoz? No,
no, it was Bruce Matthews.
Oh, Bruce. Okay.
And Bruce Matthews played mostly guard and center. So
Okay.
There's only 7 players, I believe, and one of them's Bruce Matthews that started more games than me in the NFL.
Okay.
And so, but there's also a little statistic too that it's kind of humorous, but get some sympathy too. Even though I started 251 games. He says, other than Sean Landetta, who's a punter, so you really can't count him, nobody played more losing football games than me in NFL history. So I should be in the Hall of Fame out of pure sympathy.
Yeah, I agree. Because you got, what did you guys, you played in, was it 4 playoff seasons, or was it 5?
No, 80, 82, and 91, 3.
Only 3, wow.
3.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Jerry Glanville got us back to the playoffs in 1991.
And that was his only year because after that it kind of started going south with him.
Yeah, the circus started to lose some fan base.
That brings up, I kind of want to get into Glanville. What was it like playing for him?
Well, Jerry was my defensive coordinator for my first 5 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so you already had a taste of him.
Yeah, I knew his whole persona and his stick and everything. And then when he came in '89, I believe it was, I was the elder statesman on the team, so I went, down to the complex or up to the complex to welcome him back and ask him how I could help him go ahead and put winning football back on the field. And but I already knew his stick. He likes it it's like a passion play with Jerry. He'd rather win every game on the last play of the game every week.
He's a showman. He doesn't care. Yeah.
Yeah, and it worked for a while, but then it gets a little tiresome. And I'll just tell you one little thing. Everybody thinks Jerry Glanville's from Texas. Mm-hmm. He's born and raised and went to school in Ohio. So
okay, so he's an Ohio kid.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah, but I got to give him credit. I mean, he put us back in the playoffs. I mean,
he did indeed. He had that one year. I think you were. What were you? 10 and 6
maybe. Yeah, we went up and played the Redskins in
the wild card, or no, that was the division round, right?
Division round, I believe. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I think it was 24-7 that game.
No, actually, it was a pretty high-scoring game.
It was?
We were playing, and it was like 34 degrees and sideways rain the entire game. It was awful.
Man, that's brutal.
It was the coldest game I've ever played in because
and you're from Chicago, so you know cold weather.
Yeah, but you know what? Cold and snowy is one thing. Cold and wet is something else.
That's a true story.
Yeah,
that's a true story. So Jerry's quite the character. What would you say he might have been one of your favorite coaches to play for, or who was your favorite coach to play for?
Well, you have to say Lehman Bennett because we had a winning season 3 out of my first 5 years, and we were in the playoffs 3 out of my first 5 years. So we were in the playoffs 4 times, not 3, because we went my rookie year with a 9-7 record when Tim Mazzetti kicked us into the wild card race.
Okay.
So and he had a good coaching staff, and we had a really good cast of characters. We had a good locker room. Mm-hmm. And after the '82 season, what happened?
And that was with Barkowski, right?
That was with Bart, and we had people like Fulton Kuykendall, and Jeff Van Note was on the team, and we had some really good players. Robert Pennywell, Buddy Curry had come in by then, I think, and
I forgot Buddy was on that team.
Yeah, and then we had William Andrews, who was our running back, along with Lynn Kane, Wallace Francis, and Alfred Jenkins.
Okay.
And Alfred Jackson, is our receiving core. Billy Rickman, who still to this day had the best hands of anybody I've ever seen play the position.
Really?
And he had little tiny hands too.
Really?
Yeah, he actually used to do a drill after practice where he would have a quarterback throw him the ball high right, high left, low right, low left, then between his legs, and he'd catch every one of the balls with one hand.
Oh, so you're telling me he's the original Odell Beckham?
Yeah, but his hands are about half the size of Odell,
which is even more impressive. And he probably didn't have those crazy gloves on either.
No, we didn't have gloves back then. He was doing it barehanded.
Wow, that is amazing.
He caught one year for us. 70-something balls, or maybe even 80 balls in 1 year for us.
80 balls, yeah. Wow. Jeez, that is a hell of a stat right there.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, what about, this? I know you were with the NFLPA. I think you were vice president for a long time, right?
I was actually president for 8 years,
President, my bad. What's some of your thoughts on what's going on? There's a whole lot of things going on, whether it's the anthem stuff, concussion protocols. I've read some articles about the concussion, about how they're delaying payments, and there's audits on all these athletes, and there's, minuscule payments, and it's just so delayed going out right now. What do you think about all this? I mean, this has got to bother you, right?
Well, I'll give you my thoughts on the anthem protest. One is that the NFL is very inconsistent on their enforcement policies.
Yeah.
And they kind of created this monster themselves. Now, I'm for everybody's right to go ahead and peacefully protest. I don't agree with the players utilizing or picking the anthem as the vehicle to go ahead and protest. They could have found another way to go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
I remember when we were on strike in '82, one of the things we did that the league actually said that they were going to fine us or not let us play is that we agreed to go ahead and show solidarity as a union, that before the game, the entire team from all the players from each team would walk across the field to the to the middle of the field and shake hands.
And that was your form of protest back then.
Yeah, just go ahead and show solidarity.
Yeah.
So, the anthem was not the appropriate vehicle.
Yeah.
On the CTE, all the concussion stuff, because we were talking about that back, when I was in the Players Association as vice president and president. It's a real danger. It's obviously something that they're paying more close attention to, which they should.
Absolutely.
And the protocols that are in place are better than they were, because prior to that there weren't any.
Oh, yeah, there was none whatsoever. It was the Wild West.
I mean, in 1982, one of the rights we achieved through the collective bargaining agreement, a lot of people are aghast when they hear this, is that we finally won the right to actually see our medical records after 82.
You never were able to have access to your medical records prior to that?
Yeah.
Wow, that is... Yeah. I just would assume that would have been like a God-given right. I mean, it's your body.
I don't think there were any HIPAA laws back then.
Probably not. Wow, that is...
We also won the right to go ahead and get a second opinion of a doctor outside of the team doctors.
And you said this was in 82 or 82?
Yeah, in 1983, it was the first time we got to look at all our medical records, and everybody got a copy of theirs. So
all of those players prior to that, basically nobody knew what the hell was going on.
Correct.
Oh, my God.
And, God. One player on our team found out that he played with a cracked vertebra in his neck for almost half the season, and he was never told.
And you had no... Wow, that is...
So the CTE thing, the CTE settlement's a terrible settlement. It really is. The lawyers got paid a whole lot of money. And let me put it to you this way. It's an award that you actually do not want to qualify for. Because if you go through the baseline assessment and then you go ahead...
Is this something that you did also? Or?
Oh, I signed up not as a plaintiff, but I signed up to be eligible for it, not to protect me, to go ahead and protect my family.
Yeah.
So if I get cognitively impaired, from too many concussive events in my career... there is a monetary award. My family might need that money to go ahead and take care of me and take care of themselves.
Absolutely.
So you have to do it from that standpoint. And actually, I'm getting ready. I have to have mine done within the next 6 or 9 months, or I go ahead and lose the eligibility for an award.
Okay.
But again, like I said, it's not something that you want to get. You want to be eligible for, because that means you have a problem.
Absolutely.
And the other thing that's out there in some misinformation is that and I talk to former players when I see them all the time and tell them about this. In order to go ahead and qualify to get a determination made on whether or not you receive an award via the settlement, is that you don't need a lawyer to do that. You can do that yourself.
Oh, really?
The processes are in place. You just follow them and everything like that. And a lawyer's not necessary.
So is that something that they can do through the players' union?
You can do it yourself online.
Okay.
Yeah, basically the lawyers are double dipping because they got like a third of the case, and the award, the settlement award, the lawyers' amount was given to them separate from that, so they've already been paid.
Oh, so the lawyers are, they're
now
trying
now lawyers are coming back, and I get emails all the time from these lawyers. I call them ambulance chasers, or wanting to represent me in my CTE application.
So they're like the Motlock guys that you see on the TV or whatever.
Yeah, those kind of guys.
The trial lawyers.
Yeah, they're ambulance chasers.
Yeah,
is what they are, and the players don't need them.
Yeah.
Now, if there's a guy who's having some problems and he doesn't have anybody to assist him, then he needs someone to assist him, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
So,
you might be able to find that through, I'm assuming, maybe the players' union
you
or
can go
something.
online and absolutely. So it's not that difficult a process, and some people have already signed up with lawyers, and usually it's too late after that.
Too late after that. Now, ballpark, obviously, I'm assuming you might have played with some concussions, or you've had concussions in your career. How many do you think you've had?
Well, there's 3 grades of concussions, and a lot of people don't realize there's grade 1, 2, and 3. And let's go ahead and say grade 3 concussion is that you have a concussive event, but you don't have any loss of consciousness, but you don't have any short-term memory loss.
Okay.
Okay, grade 2 is that if you've had a concussive event, you don't lose consciousness, but you have some short-term memory loss. Then,
okay.
Like say grade 1, the top one is that, you lost consciousness and you have short-term memory loss. The one that's hard to determine it's just like getting punched too much when you're a boxer, is the grade 3 one.
Yeah.
You just don't know how many of those you had. Could have had thousands.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, and grade 2, usually those are diagnosed because all of a sudden, you got a headache. You didn't lose consciousness, but all of a sudden, you got short-term memory loss. But now with the protocols they have in place, those are more easily diagnosed. When I was in the league, there was no diagnosis. They gave you smell salts, so you went back in the game.
And that was it, basically.
That was it. So the only concussions that they basically put in your medical records were the ones where you got knocked out.
Yeah, outside of that,
they don't know. So you can't tell. So how many, I don't know. What's the cumulative effect? Who knows?
Yeah.
And then there's genetics involved because, I had a player, his name, we won't go ahead and name him, and he played offensive line with me. He got diagnosed with early onset dementia in his late 30s.
Wow.
And he played about 8 years in the NFL. That's it.
8 years, and he was diagnosed with dementia in his 30s?
Yeah, and he's probably 55, maybe 55 years old now.
Wow.
And so it's out there. It's happening. And, with a guy like myself, I tell my family to watch me, and I tell my relatives to keep an eye on me because I'm 62 now, and I can't go to the grocery store without a shopping list, but everybody else in their 60s is the same way. So it's kind of like...
I'm like that.
But, you walk into a room sometime and you say, why did I come in here? But you know what? Everybody else you talk to at the same age level is having the same thing. So when you go ahead and determine where it's advanced to the point beyond just age, where it is actually you've got some cognitive degeneration going on. So I don't know. And the other thing is with this settlement, it's not a whole lot of money on the table because the older you are, the less you get.
Well, isn't like a total of $1 billion?
Yeah, but if you're below the age of 35, you can get up to $5 million. And usually it's only awarded if someone has died or taken their life or something like that. So the older you are,
the older you are, the less you get?
Yeah, because they do it because of actuarial science, because, they know that the older people aren't going to live as long, so you need as much money. So I just looked at it the other day. If I got diagnosed with a grade 1 early onset dementia, Alzheimer's, I said, I think the total amount, and I'm not saying it's a little, but compared to what you were if you were 35, mine's $400,000. That's it.
Yeah.
The guy who's at 35 might get $3 million.
Yeah, exactly. Compared to that, that's not a whole lot for from a, what did you have, like an 18-year or 17-year career?
But the thing is, a lot of people don't realize is that part of this settlement is that the league didn't have to admit to any knowledge or culpability at all. It was just like the cigarette settlement.
That's insane.
No culpability. So once it was over, it's done. They can't reopen it again.
And that's
it's over.
And that's basically the league's MO. I mean, just as a fan, I can't stand this Goodell guy. I'm sure you probably got to feel the same way, no?
I know Roger real well. I've known him for a long time. They've made a lot of political missteps on the way they've handled things. That goes back to consistency in their enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if who was the Florida quarterback was in there while he's playing?
With the Bucks.
No, he was with Florida Tebow. Tim
Tebow, yeah.
If Tim Tebow, they won't let Tim Tebow wear 316 on
I know.
on his eye blackout.
Yeah.
But they'll go ahead and let a player, which is already in the rules that they can't do it, stand at attention and put his hand at his chart.
Yeah, I know. There's just a lot of inconsistencies, and I just feel like a lot of if he just picked enforced the rules that are on the book, or had a leeway. Like hell, there was a story today. I'm sure you might have heard. There was a guy a player on the Chiefs who recently became a doctor, and he wanted to add MD onto his jersey, and I guess the league had a problem with that. They wouldn't let him put it on his jersey.
Well, they'll do junior, senior, and the third on there. What the hell?
I would have thought the league would have been happy. Say, oh, this guy is a doctor now.
They should. Yeah, we have a doctor, actually a medical doctor, or he was a doctor of some sense.
Are they worried that he's going to be so smart that he can diagnose himself with a concussion or I don't know? It's crazy.
They did. Like I said, they're not real sophisticated politically.
Yeah,
and they just aren't. They make mistakes all the time. They're very protective. It's just like they did with the ball player who beat up his girlfriend in the elevator.
Yep.
I can't remember his name. But
Ray Lewis. Yeah.
And they said, well, we never saw the tapes.
Yeah, and then the tapes come out. I know.
That always happens.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to be upfront and honest about it, and you got to be transparent. And you take a 1 week story and turn it into a year or 2 years.
Exactly. That's just like. Why keep dragging this out? It's like it's a reoccurring theme. It's like you're just alienating fans,
But they will never fire Roger Goodell.
Because he makes them so much money, no?
He signed a collective bargaining agreement that was 10 years long.
Okay.
You never signed a collective bargaining agreement that's 10 years long. That means that you've had 4 or 5 times turnover of players in the league in a 10-year 10-year period, since the league average is only 3 years. So there's no changes in benefits, there's no changes in working conditions, there's no changes over a 10-year period.
So for 10 years, he's got it.
For 10 years, they could tell all the networks that we got a labor peace for 10 years, and you're going to pay for it. So he's made them so much money in that 10-year period, they'll never fire him.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't sound like he's going anywhere, which is baffling because, as an outsider, he's a PR disaster.
Well, they set aside the little things because he took care of them on the big things.
yeah. That's spot on with him. Another, say back to the concussions a little bit. You hear a lot of fathers saying they were hesitant about if they would let their kid play football. If you had a son, I know you have 2 girls. If you had a son, would you be hesitant about him playing football today, or?
Well, I wouldn't let him play until high school.
Okay.
I don't think it's necessary. I started playing when I was 10. There really wasn't any benefit.
Okay.
At that age.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't push him into it, but I wouldn't.
You wouldn't tell him no.
I wouldn't tell him no, but I would make sure that I wanted to explore his reasons for playing.
Yeah.
I wanted to explore his passion. It's something if he really wants to do it, you're either all in or you're not. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and support you.
Absolutely.
The other thing that parents need to do is that they really need to make sure that the helmets fit correctly. the players in the NFL's helmets don't fit correctly.
Yeah.
And the reason why you can tell that is that you're not supposed to be able to take your helmet off like it's a baseball cap. That means it doesn't fit tight enough. Mm-hmm. It's too loose. And I think that's a contributing factor is because the helmets aren't fitted correctly anymore. They wear them more for comfort, not for protection.
That makes sense.
Another thing is you see a lot of, receivers, they got a 4-pronged chin strap. One of them's not in use.
Yeah.
And it's more for how I look, not for how it's going to protect me.
Yeah.
The league should go ahead and require, and it should be a penalty.
I agree. It should,
or you got to miss a play,
or you miss a play,
or
you get fined, or
you get fined,
something like that.
So the helmets don't fit right. So I'm fine with it. It's an individual parent's decision. Make sure the helmets fit. Make sure your doctors and the league that you're in have a concussion protocol that you can review and you agree with, mm-hmm. and make sure when your child has a possible concussive event, they go ahead mm-hmm. and make sure that the doctors and the team has followed that concussion protocol. And then listen to the doctor, and you have to tell your son, if you're going to play football and you have a concussion, and this is one of the risks, he says, the only way that you're going to go back in a game or back practice in a game is when the doctor says you can. I'm not going to override the doctor. Your coach isn't going to override the doctor. And he says, and tell him that up front, make you understand it. And do you understand, son? Yes. And you're in agreement with that? He goes, yes. He says, okay, we're fine then.
Okay. I mean, it's hard to disagree with that.
No.
I'm 100% on board with that. Well, Mike, I think that's going to wrap it up for us today. I really appreciate you coming on, taking the time to come down here and, talk with us about things going on in the league. This has been great, man. I appreciate it a lot.
Good to see you, Keith, always.
All right, thanks again for tuning in for another episode of the Ips Syndicate. This is Keith Ippolito. Follow me on my Twitter at Ips Syndicate, on my Instagram, also Ips Syndicate. Shout out to our producer, Dave Sams, for trying to make me look good and sound good, if that's possible. I'm not entirely sure it is. But follow him. He's on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. It's at TOV Sports. TOV Sports. Until next time, guys.